And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another recap review of the hit Max original series. And just like that, a new chapter of Sex in the City. I never say that part, but I wanted to say that part this time.
I
You're here
mean,
with your
thank
boy
you.
Lucas and Amaya Desire. I haven't said that in a while either.
No, you haven't.
Oh, we are here to talk about episode 10, which is titled The Last Supper, Part 1. So you already know this is the episode right before the finale, before we get into the mess. And we're going to talk about the mess in this episode. So, what I'm going to do this time, and I always like switching it up how we review recap stuff because it just makes it more interesting. We're going to start off the episode with the beginning of it, which is Aiden and Carrie visiting Steve's new restaurant. But from there, I want to jump directly into Miranda's storyline. But first, let's start off with Aiden and Carrie visiting Steve's new place. What you think about setting it up this way at the beginning? What you think about it? Almost sounded like Aiden invested in Steve's new place. Or was he investing in Carrie? I was confused because he said one of the two things, and then he made an old joke about Carrie, which I'm amazed that she was comfortable with. But what do you think about the episode starting off this way?
I thought it was interesting. We haven't seen Steve in a while, so I get the need to make sure we don't forget about his side of the story when it comes to him and
Mhm.
Miranda. But I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like something phenomenal, but it was
Yeah.
enough, to get us like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like, what's happening here?
Mhm.
I was quite confused as well on whether or not Aiden had invested, but I think that's what
Yeah.
it seemed like for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought it was cool. Like them, I don't remember the joke that he made, but
About Carrie's age, about
oh yes, that's right. That's what it
she said
was.
I haven't been here for 35 years, she said. And he said, wait a minute, you came to New York when you were 21.
Hmm.
So that would mean, and then he made a very I mean, I guess when you're in love, you can joke about women's ages, but
You
I mean,
can, but you can still get
only
choked
age
in the throat.
I want to say, yeah, only age we're allowed to bring up when it pertains to women is Angela Bassett and how amazing she looks at her age. But we're not allowed to talk about anybody else's age. Because
No,
no,
no.
no, not at all. But speaking of things that are difficult to talk about, I'm going to jump a lot of Miranda's storyline just to go to what her and Carrie's conversation when Carrie said, I had not been to Coney Island until I went and seen Steve's place.
Hmm.
And then she said, then we're going to do another venture when I go and see Shay's show. And Miranda says, oh, you're not touring Brooklyn. You're touring my past relationships.
I
I
mean,
know, I know the standard for men. So before I talk about that, I'm going to ask you, is there any form of girl code about hanging out in any way, shape, or fashion with your girl's exes?
I believe that there is a code. I've never had to deal with that code because, uh, yeah, I mean, if I just never had to deal with it. My closest friends, I was never really close with their significant others.
Hmm.
But my bestest friend, she's married, and he and I were cool, and they weren't obviously divorced. Even when they were on the outs, that was still my dude because he was like a
Yeah,
stepbrother to me. Um,
yeah.
I feel like the only way the standard is it kind of doesn't apply is if this person is somebody I hooked you up with, right? Like if they're my actual
Ah,
friend
friend beforehand. Yeah.
beforehand. Yeah. So I get technically Steve can stay, right? Because they were
Kid
married,
together, they were together
right?
forever. Yeah.
And your friends do know him, and he knows them, and they have created their own
Hmm.
friendship. Um, Shay was Carrie's
Carrie's friend
friend.
first. Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. It makes it a difficult thing to picture. One, and I'll talk about from a male perspective. I don't care how long you've been married to your significant other. Once your marriage ends, our connection ends. That's the normal way men operate.
Mhm.
So it's no carryover effect here, pun intended. But As it pertains to Che, I think that is a completely different situation because Carrie was friends with Che before Miranda and Che started dealing with each other. So that's a
Right.
completely different situation. But Carrie only knows Steve because Miranda and Steve were together. In that case, it makes it difficult. I understand the trepidation, but I love the way Miranda responded when she said, "Oh no, no, no! I'm not saying you can't be friends with them, but it's also that weird thing, that weird element, like you're hanging out with all my exes." Like, case in point, how would Carrie have felt if Miranda was hanging out with Aiden?
I mean, I think that would be. I don't think it would be that
It's
much different because they're having the way that Miranda and Steve are getting divorced. Well, I'm assuming it's gotten better, but the way that Miranda and Steve were acting, right, was similar to Aiden and
yeah.
Carrie. And so,
Hmm.
but also I think that I can't picture in my head how the women reacted to what Carrie did to Aiden either. So you know what I mean? Because those things matter. But I think that despite them, like I said, I feel like when you get older and you're married older and so
Hmm.
further, like you know what I mean, like for
Yeah.
example, if we got married right now, right, we would be going into like say this 20 years from now. If we're married for 20 years and then we get divorced, and somebody that I met through you, I've become really close with, that's hard to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm just severing this relationship too
Ties with you all
because
together. Yeah.
yeah, because then you can pose the question, in any form or fashion, whether it's romantic or not. You could say, well, was it ever a real friendship? Like, was I just,
Mm.
a way to get to you? You know what I mean? So this something to consider. Um,
So longevity plays a bigger portion of it than anything else. Because
Absolutely.
if you're married for, let's say, 8 years, I mean, how much of a connection do you garner in that time? You could be really, really close with somebody, but if they are married with their partner for 8 years, but y'all have been friends for 25, 30 of those years, I
Hmm.
mean, at that point, is that other person really important? Not important in a sense where it sounds absolutely horrible, but
Yeah.
important in the sense of, if this a relationship you need to keep going. I think that was the thing here. Again, I love their responses because they were grown responses. It's like, I'm not mad at that, but boy,
And
I am a
and
little bit more upset that you are going to Steve's place before me.
I mean, and they were genuine responses, right?
Yes.
All the way up until Miranda and Che's conversation. I mean, Miranda and Carrie's conversation about
Hmm.
coming to dinner. Like even up the way up to that, it was a real. Those were genuine responses that any one of us could give. My thing also is we don't know how these relationships are gonna form, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I don't have this like for again, if you and I got married, I have a younger brother. If you and my brother develop a relationship that has been able to form because of me, but
Flourish
sustains because
beyond
of
just us
y'all.
being together.
Right.
Yeah.
I have no right to say you can no longer be friends with Lucas because we're getting a divorce. Depending on obviously what the reasoning is, because then that would play a factor too. But
I'm not gonna cheat, so that would be, we get a
I,
divorce, it's gonna be on you. You've
no.
threatened to divorce me a multitude of
Wow.
times. You've threatened to
You know
divorce me.
what? That's because you don't make time for me, and the ladies will agree with me when I say time matters. Lady, put it in the comments. Time matters. But yeah, I just think that we just don't know. We blend families, and ideally,
Hmm.
everybody wants you to become one big family, and sometimes that doesn't happen, and sometimes it does. And I mean, we
Yeah.
know people like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah, it is a difficult thing to navigate there. But let's speak of other things with Miranda this episode. I'm not going to talk about her and the boss coming back and then the new girl who clearly has she has an English accent and some form of attraction that Miranda has to her. None of that's important. But
hmm
I want to talk about Miranda. This whole thing with Che and this stand-up performance. I'm just gonna leave it open to you before I interject myself at all into this. What did you think about Che's performance and the way it seemed to tilt towards her, just their relationship with Miranda and Miranda's reaction to them performing this set.
All I know is that I'm dating a guy who's a comedian, and guess what? I'm not doing. I'm not coming to not
Not
near
going to
one
the show.
show. Not near one show. Not after watching that episode. Absolutely not. No. I'm just when you make it big, I'll come to one show in one major city and then I'm out.
Hmm.
Like that's it. I'm done. Um, I think that you cannot expect that she wouldn't make any joke at all.
Hmm.
With her being, I'll say she was what 6 jokes in. It could
They,
have 8. It,
I said
oh,
they.
they. Sorry, yes, they. Um, so with they being about 6 to 8 jokes in, right?
Hmm.
You would think, damn, they are really just going in, like they going ham right now.
Hmm.
But at the same time, comedy is based off of real life.
Yeah.
We know
Hmm.
this. Comedy, you turn your pain into jokes.
There you go.
So I think that yes, we don't know what the remainder of the set was going to be. According to Che, they were going to get there, right?
Yeah.
But I think that I would have loved to see the rest of the set because I
Because
do
it's
feel like
mhm.
that's the direction they were headed in. What because the last joke was that she
we we both
Miranda.
confused. Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. So
Hmm.
to me, it's like, okay, well, they getting there. They about to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Not
don't.
only that though, it's just being a comedian in general. Like some of our favorite comedians of all time, some of the best performances of all time, is them being really, if you took it in that perspective, being mean spirited towards the loved ones of them.
Mhm.
Like, who doesn't
Kids.
remember Bernie? Who don't remember Bernie Mac's set from King of Comedy? That was about his nieces and nephews, and
Mhm.
about one nephew who may be gay, and
Right.
the way he was like, that's comedy. Kevin Hart talks about before his father passed, and even in his new special, he talks about his father addiction and all and everything. He's talked about his wife. He's talked about his ex. He's talked about his kids. I think that's part of comedy, and
Mhm.
that's part of the reason you don't just randomly show up to a comedy set. It ain't got to be your ex. It could be the person you with. And they still gonna get jokes off about you because they're taking their real life and making it into a joke. But
Absolutely.
with a lot of comedians, as they say in broad terms, not just with their family, but in general, you can't be so sensitive. Comedians make jokes about everything. The
Yeah.
moment you become sensitive and the moment you think you can tone down a comic, I think you're stifling creativity at that point.
Yeah.
You can't
Agreed.
do it. You got to expect them to take their life and make something, excuse me, out of it, almost equivalent to Carrie when she writes her books. And
Mhm.
the way Aiden's ex-wife said, "Hey, I would just prefer you not to put my kids in a book." But guess what? That's because she went towards Carrie before anything was done. You decided to show up on Shay before they're set, and
Yeah.
they didn't know you were there. What did you think was going to happen? That's why I love
Yeah.
the conversation afterwards. And I love the point that Che was very direct. And I'm a comedian. I take things that hurt me and I
Mhm.
make them into jokes. And then Miranda's response being, I didn't think I would be something that hurts you. I think that's kind of a childish response.
Well, it was more of I take things that bad things that happened to me, and so in using the lingo that Che chose,
Yeah.
it can come off harmful and like hurtful. That wasn't the
Hmm.
intent though. The intent is really that when they go through something that's I don't want to say bad, but obviously put them in a bad space,
Bad
right?
place. Yeah.
So this thing, I need to figure out how to get it up off of me, how to get it out, how do I release and heal? And if you're a comedian, 9 times out of 10, that is what you're going to do. You're going to make fun. Like you gotta laugh to keep from crying. You know what I mean? And
That's the
again,
key
I
part.
I do think that Miranda was wrong for that, and also that Well, I don't believe she was invited, was she? Because
No.
I'm trying to figure out. Carrie didn't invite her. She just decided to
Uh-uh.
show up.
She just to show up. Yeah. And that's you set yourself up because you forgot that your ex was a comedian
Yeah.
and that your personal life was going to be on display there. The only other things with Shay to talk about this episode, I don't really want to talk about the doctor who kept on mispronouncing their pronouns. But then I also believe at times I know people don't like to hear it in a community that sometimes it is an adjustment period for some people. Look, my
Mhm.
co-star just did it. It happens from time to time
It
where you
does.
do it, but again, it's not that you don't care. It's just that as her co-work as their coworker said, he's just remembering the old you.
Hmm.
So that's all. And he wasn't like standoffish when you corrected him. He like, oh, I'm sorry. I know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How many times I'm going to have to remind him? As many times as humanly possible, because technically that's what happens. It is what it is. Um, Next up, I want to talk about Charlotte
Well, before we
because
go to Charlotte, I
uh
just want
oh,
to
yeah,
mention the comments, the conversation that happened between
oh,
Che and the young lady that came from the pet store.
I forget. Ah,
Yes.
yes,
I
yes,
just, I
yes,
love that. The, I'm sorry. You know what? Wait a minute. No, I'm not. I'm tired of
yes.
having to adjust and change who I actually
I
am for
am.
people to
Yep.
make them
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. Love, love, love that. And love that the response, from them was, you shouldn't be sorry. And I think if we
There you
did
go.
more of that, we had that
Mm-hmm.
conversation with friends, it would be so much better. I would appreciate, and I'm gonna like just be mindful of myself because I actually did it the other day. I'm not saying sorry for when it's like
Mm-hmm.
for nothing that's not on me. You know what I mean? There's a difference
Yeah.
between saying like I apologize for whatever if something was happened,
Yeah.
but like I think sometimes our knee jerk reaction is when we're feeling ashamed is to say I'm sorry. But these feelings that you feel or emotions that you're going through are real. You
Mm.
get to share them and show them, and you don't need to be sorry about it. So I really love that conversation.
I don't know how it's because the way I did my notes and I'm just jumping around here, but I completely forgot about that conversation. And all I thought was,
That's why
oh,
you're
this is
hyped.
going to be something. Exactly. This is going to be something fun to talk about because of that form of conversation. They were saying of the other person saying you shouldn't have to apologize for any of it.
Hmm.
Let yourself feel like let it out. Who cares? In the end, if you truly love me, you'll be perfectly fine with what I have to say because you understand it's not coming from a place of hurt, it's not coming from a place of anger, it's
Right.
coming from my truth. And I did love that, but I kind of also knew this was happening because the moment they saw them at the pet store, you kind of knew like, okay, we're going like this could be something to me that
Yeah.
will make the character of Che better because the Miranda thing just never fit all the way, but
Yeah.
this situationship now seems like this fits a lot better.
Is it a situationship though? Because have they been
It's a,
intimate?
I mean, a situation to me, intimacy is not the only part of a situationship.
Well,
Any
the
form
reason
of an
why
emotional
I asked,
connection without an official connection to me is a situationship.
the reason why I asked is because I would view this as a friendship.
Oh,
Like
I
they,
see. I see so much more. They were flirting.
I think Che was flirting more, but I digress. um, I think that it could be more, but I think that the other young lady is. I
You think
can
she's just a
see.
fan that wants to be a friend, or do you think it's more?
I think it's
Because
all
remember, Che
three.
only did the set because of them.
Yeah, to impress her. But my thing
Yeah.
is, it's not. I don't think that it's not flirting, right? I believe that's in
Okay.
there, but I think that
Hmm.
I really wish we knew her name, and I hope that is the right
Yeah, they
pronoun.
didn't say that. Yeah, I didn't. That's why I couldn't get. That's why I say person. I wasn't sure
Okay.
because I didn't hear the pronouns being said between them.
Okay. Um, I think that they know how to. What's the word I'm looking for? I think they know how to present as a friend, even though they want more. Not in a bad
Ah,
way. Do you see what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
yeah,
somebody who
yeah.
can actually be your friend that you like. With
Foot forward with friendship before, even if I'm
right,
interested in more.
right, yes,
Yeah,
that's the type of
yeah.
person
I'm
that
doing that
is
with somebody now, so I fully understand. I fully
yeah,
understand.
yeah, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But again, Charlotte, this episode. What do you think about Charlotte finally grabbing hold of her independence in this episode? Yeah.
Super excited. Drunken Charlotte is my favorite Charlotte. I was like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
girl. Okay, yes. Take your power back. Okay, take the reins back. Tell them kids what they say. FTK. For those of y'all who don't know, figure it
Yeah.
out. Um, I really enjoyed seeing Charlotte come out of her element, come out of her shell,
Yes.
and really just in me time and whatever that looks like, right? And just be for herself, stand up for
Hmm.
herself. And I thought that that was super super cool. Definitely my favorite part of the episode because I think that a
Yeah.
lot of moms need to see that. You need to see that
Yes.
you deserve to have a life outside of these kids, outside of the husband or the wife.
Hmm.
That your person can survive while you take some time for
Hmm.
you, 110%. And so I loved it. I love that they were a little bit worried, blowing her phone up, and I love that she was like, "I'm absolutely not going to get Rock's notebook," and she called up,
Called Harry's bluff about you. You said you were
saying,
going to
"You said
step
you
up.
want help.
Uh
Here
huh.
it is." So I loved all that. I think it was so necessary, and I think that it was a real champion moment just for moms. Like listen, we
Exactly.
were people. I was somebody and a whole person before I had you, and before I
Hmm.
married you. So
It's something that people always forget. And I know I've done it in my life where you forget like your parents are actually people.
mm-hmm.
It normally takes, unfortunately, for you to lose a parent for you to come to the realization, oh, they are people. Or as
Yeah,
you're working through maybe past issues with your parents, where you got to realize, oh, wait a minute, at one point in time, they were just like me. They were just a
mm-hmm.
person, and I put them
Yeah,
on this pedestal. I love the point that, again, calling Harry's bluff, as she pinpointed, you said you were going to step up here because all of them acted like it wasn't a big deal when Charlotte
mm-hmm.
said, I'm going to have to step back to make sure this works. And now we see the moment she does, and the moment something happens that they can't handle, she's the first person to reach out to. But I
Yeah,
love the point when she was like, I am not answering this phone. Let me throw this motherfucker away. You're
she
going to
did.
leave me alone.
She
I
did.
love the point that the girls at the job drug her out because she said, like, you sold something for over $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
You better go celebrate. You sold something to Sam fucking Smith.
Hello, you better
Look
go and
here.
celebrate.
You better go celebrate. I'm just mad that Sam Smith didn't perform Unholy right here for me. That's my song.
Oh my God.
But again, it's just a great moment to see Charlotte cut loose because we haven't seen it in so long. She seems to be so well put together, so uptight at times. But this is
Agreed.
her saying, no, like, damn it, before I was your mama, I was a hot girl. I was in these streets. I was a city girl. I was acting
The
bad
streets was calling
before.
the rotary phone, and I answered it.
Exactly. It's a perfect mixture and a perfect I don't know if contradiction is the right word there I'm looking for.
Kind of, sort of. It works.
To between her and Lisa. And
Mm.
that's the next person I want to get into because this is a very deep, interesting storyline that they went with here.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa tells Charlotte, I'm pregnant. And after she tells Charlotte she's pregnant, she says to me one of the most impactful things I've heard this so far this season, which is, I thought this was going to be my time, and now it's not. What did you think about Lisa after she told Charlotte she was pregnant? Her reaction to it afterwards, her conversation with Herbert about how they got into this situation here. What did you just think about the entirety of Lisa this episode?
Well, I think that I love that they really gave her real feel, right?
Yeah.
Because ideally, these women are in their late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So apparently she hadn't really transitioned into menopause, which is what she
Hmm.
mentioned. So I thought I was out of that stage, and apparently I was right on the line. And I think that that's real. I think that I can't imagine that a woman who already has kids, who has created this amazing career for themselves, not kind of feel the way she expressed, because you do think like, okay, I've had my kids, I'm on my career path, I can do both simultaneously now. How do I,
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
I thought it was very interesting, for sure. But like
Excuse
I
me.
said, I just liked that it was real. It gave her the
Hmm.
full range of emotions, and she was able to share that. And that Charlotte was a safe space for her, because sometimes
Yeah.
not all people react the way you want them to, or respond the way you want
Hmm.
them to. Now, as
Yeah.
far as her conversation with Herbert, it was disheartening, because I think so many women feel that way, that
Yeah.
you don't even help with the ones we have. How can you possibly be excited for another one on the
Yeah.
way? And I think that, again, we talked about this in a few reviews ago, about them having this power struggle, and both of them
Yeah.
doing these very
Hmm.
high intense jobs, that don't leave room for family, or leave room for themselves, for that matter. And so,
Yeah.
the fact that she said she'll figure it out, she always does.
Mm.
Again, I'm gonna keep saying it, because it applies. Malik Yoba and Janet Jackson, like, they're
Yeah.
not addressing
Hmm.
the issue one bit. They're sweeping a lot of things under the rug, and I think that it's going to cause an issue, and I'm interested to see what the last episode is going to be. I don't think we'll see anything
Hmm.
then, but if we get a season 3, I do think that it's possible that we'll see something different.
Yeah, because this was a hard conversation to be had. One, I love the conversation between them two when she said, "Why didn't you go get what I asked you to get?" Which is the vasectomy. And him saying, "Well, you were postpartum. I thought you would change your mind." And she's like, I would have never changed my mind.
Hmm.
Like this was, it basically to her, I had made up my mind. I didn't want to have any more kids.
Right.
And I fully understand, even though I know certain people, I don't know in our comments if they would say it, because luckily we have a lot of female watchers in our comments, and they
Hmm.
kind of notice already. But it's a lot riskier for a woman to go through that procedure than it is for a man to go to that procedure. So I fully understood when she's like, "No, this is something I wanted you to take care of," because I
Right.
wouldn't expect a woman just to arbitrarily decide to get this done. Because I do know just how dramatic,
Yeah,
traumatic to
risky.
the body that procedure can be for
Yeah.
a woman. So I love that they had that actual conversation, and him being confused and saying, "I just didn't want to get something done that I thought because what you were going through." And for him to say it was just in the moment, and she said postpartum is not in the moment.
Yeah.
That's a nice a way to put it, of letting
Hmm.
you know, like, no, this, I may have been struggling with it, but I was still adamant about what I wanted. I think that was an important conversation because we don't see these two having important conversations. I absolutely loved when he said in the end, like, "Babe, this is your choice.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to have this other conversation. Like, it's up to you. I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm asking
Yeah.
you what you want to do." And her saying, "I love that you giving me that option." Granted, what she didn't believe that it was even an option, but the point that it was given to her, because we've seen so many shows where, I mean, it's a show I love. Most people may not know. It's called the Miss Pat Show on BT Plus, and they literally had the same exact storyline with Pat being pregnant and her husband's reaction to her being pregnant, and her eventually terminating the pregnancy on the show was completely different. And I
Hmm.
love the point that this one was more open, because at least we understand that he cares for his wife and he
Hmm.
understood the stress that was upon her. Even him offering to step up, he knew what she was saying was truthful.
Yeah.
You don't really help with the three we have now.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you're running for a political office.
Office. Yeah.
You're not gonna have time to do this.
Yeah.
That just brought me back to the conversation Michelle Obama had about how many times she thought about leaving Barack when he was president. because you don't have time for me. You don't have time for the kids. It leaves everything on me. I think
Yeah.
that's something we don't think about a lot of times when you're with someone and you have children and you have a demanding job. Like, you can't be there. You can't be that overly supportive parent. It's humanly
Right.
impossible
Yeah, and
because
then
unfortunately you have other responsibilities that take away that time that you would love to have with your family.
right.
So I
And
just I like every bit of conversation they had in this episode.
I think that we also forget that when one parent is doing so much and don't have time, that's literally 100% of one parent.
Yes.
Like 100% of that one parent who has to carry everything. And I think that having that conversation is important because
Hmm.
it's a conversation where the love is there, and it's done in
Hmm.
love and with respect and with kindness, because we like you said, we've seen so many times where the conversation is so abrupt and rough from one person to
Yes.
another, and it doesn't leave room for the actual love that is between these two people. So I thought it did a good job with that, and I'm excited that they had that in-depth conversation because it's something
Yes.
for us to see. And also it goes to having a conversation about vasectomies and how
Hmm.
the difference between a vasectomy and and a hysterectomy. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
just things, conversations that people really need to have, not because of anything bad, but because you need to know where your partner stands
There
beforehand.
you
So
go. Hey, look here. As someone who's waited to have uh, other kids into my late 40s for this exact reason, because I never want to be the dad that's not there. And I think that is something that a lot of men don't have that conversation about, because unfortunately for a lot of men, the option of becoming a father because of, a night of something that was pleasurable leads you to not having that choice or decision.
right.
But you need to decide up front, what type of dad do you want to be? Do you want to be the dad who's the provider, meaning like that's your main focus? Or do you want to be the dad that like goes to every soccer meet, every volleyball meet, every chess tournament, every science fair? Like, I want to be the dad that holds up a poster board at a science fair saying go, go, go. Like, that's always been my dream. But I
I
do
see that.
understand, like, for other people it's just to provide. And then you have that conversation with your partner of, hey, I don't want to stifle the parent I want to be or what I want to do when we have children. And it's a highly important conversation to have here.
It
And we're
is.
seeing it with two people who did not have that conversation. But speaking of people who don't have a conversation before jumping into something, another beautiful thing I love this episode, Anthony and Giuseppe, as they have a conversation after having sex about sex. And I'm going to speak of a place that I don't know a lot about, but I'm gonna speak on it because I think I know enough about to have this conversation here. Anthony said something very interesting because a lot of older gay men, I'm assuming, had their roles more defined than what a younger group of gay men have their roles defined as. So, one, when we hear Anthony said he's never been penetrated before, one, I was shocked because I would have assumed he was the bottom every day, all day. But for him to say that, and then for Giuseppe's response to be, why would you close yourself off to love? What did you think about their whole conversation and about how staunch Anthony was in his beliefs versus how free flowing Giuseppe is with his beliefs?
Well, I'm not surprised. There's a huge age gap between them, right?
Hmm.
Anthony went through some things where I'm sure being openly gay was
Was
probably not the best thing
horrendous.
to do, right? And so he's coming from, I want to say, a space of fear almost, because,
Yeah.
and safe. Like, this is the safe thing to do, I guess, so to speak, because I know that I have, and it's really about control. If we think about it, it's just the fact that
Hmm.
he wants to be in control, and I think that with Giuseppe, he is kind of more open, more vulnerable, more free, more
Hmm.
like we can both give and take, and I think that that's going to be something that Anthony has to learn. I like
Yep.
that Giuseppe didn't get mad though, but he just poses questions in a way that's like, well, very caring and makes
Mm-hmm.
you want to think. Despite Anthony's abrupt reaction to him,
Mm-mm.
it's still something he has to think about. He has to go into his mind and be like, well, why haven't I done this? And you know, but and I think that I love what Giuseppe said. Why can't we just be two men who want to share love? Like
Nothing.
why
Yeah.
does there need to be a definition between which one is a who wants to be male or female? Which I thought was an excellent question for somebody who is
Mm-hmm.
not in the community. You know, I would listen in to that conversation is all I would say.
I would say this. I have a lot of gay friends. And literally, this is a conversation that I've seen them have. This is a
Hmm.
conversation I've had questions about. Like, wait a minute. So, and it was from a place of ignorance
Hmm.
because I felt it when Anthony said, "I'm not the girl." That's the first response you get, or as a man, that's the first response you have. Like, well, which one of you are the girl here?
Hmm.
And then it has to be for them to correct you. Like, neither one of us. Like, this
Right.
is we're two people who are in love who have sex. There's no difference between anything else.
Right.
And I I did love the point that they had this conversation because I think this is something that's more open with a younger community. They
Hmm.
don't necessarily define themselves by the position or the act of intercourse. That doesn't define who they are. So to them, it can be either way. But for the older set, it was always like, well, you're going to be this and I'm going to be this. And I love the point that they had this conversation from this perspective of age because I always wondered between these two, where would the age show through? Where
Hmm.
would the age difference become an issue? And this is the part where the age difference becomes an issue. And then also, how can you be with somebody if you close yourself off to certain desires they have? Are you openly expecting them to cheat on you? And this is a conversation I think I know can be had. It doesn't have to be with a homosexual couple at all. This is a conversation to have with all couples.
Right.
If you don't know necessarily what your partner is into, what gets them off, what stimulates them sexually, if it's something that you're closing yourself off to, how do you ever expect to be together for a long term? It can't happen
Right.
because if you're not giving it to them, they're
They're
going to
gonna get
go
it from
somewhere
somewhere
else to get
else.
it.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting conversation to have. The last part of Anthony I want to talk about is with Stansford. As the actor who plays Stansford, we do know he passed away before season one.
Hmm.
So I do love the point that they close him off here by making him a monk and about him giving everything he owned to Anthony,
Yeah.
and partially Anthony saying, "I've been holding on to a lot of stuff that is outdated. Maybe I should be letting go too." As
Hmm.
he also, I think, relates that to his situation with Giuseppe.
Exactly.
What do you think about closing off this Stansford character this way by making him a monk instead of talking about what really happened?
I thought it was clever. I thought it was
Yeah.
very clever. Because I think it's always great to be able to honor somebody when they pass away in real life in a way
Yes.
that doesn't mimic what's happened in real life. Like
Yes.
I don't think it's ever really necessary to kill off a character even though they passed away in real life. I think that it's fine
Yes.
to just have them moving on into a chapter that allows them to
Mhm.
just, exist in
Disappear.
that space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought it was real
Paul
clever.
Walker's still alive in Fast and the Furious.
Listen, we're not gonna talk about this. I liked it though. I thought it was cool. Thought it was clever.
Yeah.
I love the love letter. I love that last
Yes.
picture. And then just the saying like, yeah, I'm giving the things I no longer need to you, and that this is the first time you find peace, which I love as well because
Hmm.
they do say that rest in peace. So I like that they kind of played with words in a way that
Yes.
was honorable.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was a nice way to do that one. Next person I want to talk about, and this is going to be a quick thing to talk about. That's why I want to talk about her next, and that is Sema, who is just heartbroken that she told Robbie during sex that I love you. Listen, ladies, gentlemen, lots of people say I love you during sex. that does not mean I love you at all. But
Mhm.
boy, in that moment, for that second, while we were doing what we were doing, I'd be damned if you ain't the person I love the most in this world.
Oh my
But
God.
the
Oh, go ahead.
moment post nut clarity kicks in, I might not even like you. But before that happens, I really do. And I'm not saying that that doesn't, that maybe that ain't the emotion, and maybe you do love the person. But
Mhm.
I just felt it odd that they made such that she made such a big deal of saying I love you during sex. Who hasn't?
Well, I think because one, he very quickly set it back. And two, again, we know that Sema has not had a love, right? She's
Mm,
so this is huge for her. And we see that she's in one of her most vulnerable states when she's having sex with somebody. But this
yeah.
is the guy that she's been having sex with the longest since the season started, right? Or since
Mm-hmm.
even last season. So this is different for her. And
Mm,
I think there's a fear that lingers around for her, as in, like, what do I do now? Like, I've said it,
yeah.
so what do I do now?
Lean into it or leave it alone. I mean, this is where you have an adult conversation. Look,
Yeah.
I know you said it back. I hope it was just that good that you said it back because I didn't really fully mean that yet. Like
Mm-mm.
this is where you have two adults have to have a conversation
But that's
about
if
saying
that's
it
what,
if it makes both of them.
but that's only if neither one of them meant to say it.
That's what I mean. That's how you do it. Like, hey, I heard it. Like, was it just in a moment? If it's just in a moment, I fully understand.
I'm not
We
talking
say, dude,
about it.
oh hell yeah, I'm talking about it.
No, I'm not talking about it. If I
Wait a
said
minute.
it, I
So
probably meant to.
you never said I love you during sex and then had
Nah,
a
because I'm
conversation
gonna let these
afterwards?
hoes, these hoes for the streets. Okay, like
Well, I
my
do,
little
and
sea breeze just
I
said
said,
summer too
I
fun.
okay. If you hint towards it, I may say it. My bad, my bad. Okay, I may say it. I mean,
No.
I love having, I love doing everything in missionary a lot too. So it's gonna come out
You know
eventually.
what? We're not gonna go there tonight. But I feel like this is why you be having trouble with these girls not stalking
That
you,
is
because
exactly
you be
why.
connecting
This
with
is,
them
I
and
be
you
looking at
don't
you and your,
love these hoes.
I looked them deep in their eyes and everything. We make it now. We kissing. We doing everything.
This
Like,
is
and I understand.
this is a
That's the
whole
problem.
love. You need to whole love. Stop it.
I don't know how to do that. I wasn't.
You ain't doing it
I'm
right.
a I'm a '80s baby. I don't know how to do that. We all listen to
Listen.
LL Cool J growing
Um,
up.
yes, we did. We did. It didn't do us no
Oh man,
justice.
no justice at all. Speaking of no justice, next person I want to talk about is Naya. I finally said her name right.
I told you it was
Naya.
Naya.
Naya as Andre Rashad, which I love a
Mm-mm.
nigga with two names. Andre Rashad has come and invited her to his baby shower and gave her a registry to pick a gift from. Let me ask a question. What would you do if your ex invited you to a baby shower?
I want to make sure I got this right though. Andre Rashad is with Sandy.
I'm assuming so.
She looked like a Sandy. That's why I'm asking. She ain't look like a Felicia.
Nah, she definitely was a Sandy.
Okay, just making sure.
Or Ashley.
Um, I
Maybe
don't
even a
either.
Taylor.
Maybe a Taylor. Maybe.
Oh,
What?
Cheyenne.
Not a
That's her name.
Cheyenne.
I know it's Cheyenne. I
No
know it's
way.
Cheyenne.
No way. I'm like, why? I don't like this storyline. I don't like this
Mm.
weird, because I think that I could understand the feelings surrounding finding out that he has another woman pregnant, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pending your divorce. However, I don't like the fact because they're not on good terms, and
Hold up.
whether I'm about to say,
Hold up.
whether or
Think.
not she hit all those emojis right on under his post, which sparked
Mm-hmm.
his thoughts, I still would not have sent her an invite. Like, that's crazy. And so the the petty in me, not in me, but like the petty but not petty, right? That's causing her to buy a stroller for $1,000. It's just I wanted them
It's
to develop
misplaced.
her in a different way. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so I get it, but I just feel like it's a little bit of a missed opportunity to talk about the emotions, the anger, the sadness, the pain, the
Yes.
confusion that she's
Yes.
actually feeling versus,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like, she lit up his post, so now he's invited her. Like, come on, like in your mind, I wouldn't even. No, we already know
Here's the
Sam
problem
going
though.
for it.
And that's the first thing I thought was they can't they're not in a good place. Why would he do that? Then I had to think and had to go back. Would he know they're not in a good place? Because she was very accepting of him moving on. She was not mad with him personally. She was mad after the fact.
Oh my god,
So
I just had an epiphany.
mhm.
That's the girl from the episode where they were just practicing.
Mhm.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So my thing is, does he think they're on bad terms? Because Naya has never been one to really tell her emotions to him, and that was one of their flaws. Is that
Hmm.
she never let her feelings be known. So if you're not letting your feelings be known, and you knew he wanted to have his child, and you kind of gave the blessing of, I can't do this for you because I'm not want to do this anymore. If you need it and you need to move on, I'm fine with that. He may think because men ain't smart. Okay, let's just put it out there. Okay, men ain't smart.
Because I
I
was gonna say
that
if I haven't talked to you in months, because she looked like she
men
about
ain't
7 months.
men ain't smart.
Okay.
If I don't, if a woman is not very direct with men, they will never pick up on stuff. If you are waiting for a man to pick up on something and you're not direct with him,
This is
I'll be
true.
damned if you will be waiting forever because
This
they
is true.
don't pick up on things. So he may not pick up on it at all and think, oh no, he has somebody fine. Look, she's clearly fine. You see how many emojis she put on there as photos?
Yeah.
She lit us up. She's so happy for me. And because she's happy for me and we divorced in a good place, I want her to come and share this joy with me about me having this baby. That's how men think.
Yeah.
In turn, women think, nigga, I put those emojis because I don't want to fuck with you. Bitch, I saw a photo. We're not together. I don't like you. That's how women think versus how
Yeah.
men think. So that was the issue. She's never been direct, and they've never shown her being direct with him about how her feelings was towards them ending their marriage. And
Yeah.
because of that, he's oblivious to everything. Because other than that, who the hell sends their ex a birthday shower invite? Are you fucking crazy?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
who the fuck spends $1,000 on a goddamn stroller for the ex that you
Hey,
dislike because he got
but
somebody
here's
else
the thing.
pregnant?
But here's the thing. When she said, I want you every time you push your shoulder around, I want you to think about me. You know what a man's gonna think? Let me help y'all women out real quick before any of y'all do this dumbass decision. You know what a man's gonna think? Wow, she's really happy for me. She even went out her way to buy a stroller for $900. Girl, he may ask you to be the godmama. You gotta be better. Do
That's
better. Do better than to think like that. Your petty cannot be buying me something.
yeah,
Men
facts.
aren't men are simple. If you buy me something, I think you like me and you're happy for me. There is no way I'm gonna think you're mad at me because you bought me something.
These are
let,
facts.
let me just help y'all out there. But speaking of
Ridiculous.
couples and getting things together, let's talk about the last couple of the evening, and that is Carrie and Aiden.
Hmm.
All I'm gonna say, because not much to talk about besides Carrie winning the dinner, her again inviting Aiden to the place. They finally have the conversation of why he's uncomfortable going to her apartment. What did you think about that quick conversation that they had in bed where he actually took blame for a lot of stuff and let her know, like, this is why I don't want to go back to your apartment? Because that's what we were waiting for, of the reason why he never wanted to step foot back in there. What did
Right.
you think about the reason that he gave her?
I mean, I like that he took responsibility. I like this is showing you how it's done. How you can break each
Mm-hmm.
other's hearts, grow, still love each other from
Mm-hmm.
afar, and get an opportunity to rekindle something new with
Yep.
two new people, but with a love that still exists, and make it into something better. And I think that both of them being able to have a piece of not one person
Mm-hmm.
carrying the full blame, but both of them being in it together,
Mm-hmm.
it allows them to have these harder conversations that are coming up, that they're going to have. And I love that because I think
Mm-hmm.
that it gives the storyline depth.
Yes.
And with Aiden being a man, it shows that a man can and will take, like, you know, responsibility and accountability for himself and his part.
Yes. I think that was an amazing part they showed there, because this whole time we've been wondering about exactly why he was so adamant that he didn't want to step foot. We understood there was pain behind it, but I love the
Hmm.
point that he not only admits that it's pain behind it, but also admits part of it is my fault. Like I just don't want to go back there and hate you, and that's why I can't go back there. And I absolutely love that. One,
Yeah,
they have a lot of grown conversations with one another where neither one of them are angry,
they
where they
do.
just understand this is where we're at.
Hmm.
Finally, what did you think about the end of this episode? Because not much to talk about. Clearly, it sets up everything for next week. What did you think about the end of this episode with Wyatt, who we kind of saw having trouble at the beginning of the episode, with him having issues with his mom? What do you think about the point when he has a broken collarbone and they realize that's not just it? And then we get the full story of that he also broke his leg, that he got into it with his mom. He started drinking. He then went to his dad's farm because he just wanted to spend time with him. Then he stole the truck, crashed it. And Aiden's response was, I just should have been there. What did you think about all of that as we going into the second part?
I mean, I knew that's where it was gonna go. Like, it was the ultimate setup for that direction, and I feel like as a parent, that's what
Mm-hmm.
his natural response would be. Like, I can only imagine
Yeah.
that if I was a mom and I'm away in another state and something happens to my kid, I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
devastated because you feel the responsibility of I should have been there. So,
Exactly.
I am interested to see how this is going to turn in because, like how they ended the episode with Carrie saying
Yeah.
things like that, I'm worried, and so it's going to be interesting. But I love that he has that again, that real breakdown, that emotional side that we can see of him, the vulnerable side of him,
Yes.
in such a in such a not necessarily tragic, but just a sad moment that he's having with Wyatt. So
Yes. I think that was the great part, because we clearly see that this kid, it's something bottled up inside of him that
yeah.
he's acting out.
Hmm.
And we saw that at the beginning of the episode when he said mom's being a dick and because she wants to take my phone and all this other. So we understand he's going through this, but we also understand now that Aiden just has guilt over the point that he's not there. I'm
Yeah.
kind of wondering, where did this go? Because does it lead? And this is the audience for this is a question for the audience. Does this lead to their relationship ending, or does it lead with Wyatt coming to New York to live with Carrie and Aiden?
Mm,
I,
that's a
I
very good
mean,
question.
like that, I think that could be a very interesting dynamic there of exactly where did this lead to between
Mhm.
them. But final thoughts on episode 10, The Last Supper, part one.
Well, I will be remiss if we do not mention um, the end of the storyline for Herbert, and I forget her name. Why did I forget her name just that quick?
Lisa.
Lisa.
Lisa and Herbert. Yeah.
Um,
Because
just
we
to
hinted towards it without bringing it up. Yeah.
yeah, but just to acknowledge it, right? Despite her feeling towards having or not having to experience a miscarriage is an extremely hard thing, to go
Yeah.
through. And so perhaps for the women who will watch this episode who have been through a miscarriage or know a friend who's had a miscarriage, as as a person who has had a miscarriage myself, I
Mm,
just want to acknowledge that part,
yeah.
because it can be tough to talk about for sure, of course. But
Hmm.
despite any feeling that Lisa had, I think we will see what the end result, so to speak, as far as her mental, emotional, whatever state of being, and Herbert's as well, will be in the next episode. But overall, this episode was really well done. It had a lot of storylines, a lot of big gems that can create conversations for all of us. And I really am enjoying the second half of the season for
Yes.
sure. They did a really good job.
Mm, Man, this it was just hard to talk about when you know people have gone through this, when you've been through it personally, and just her reaction to it of something's wrong, and him like, man, we need to get up, let's go to the doctor. And I think it's too late. It also again brings up the point that she is older, and this
Mm-hmm.
happened. Like this is even though again you said the trepidation of her even being pregnant was adamant here in this episode, but still that doesn't mean the feelings go away because she still was more than willing to say no, we still need to have this child. So I think it was
Right.
again they're doing a great job after a very slow beginning of circling around and bringing kind of the storylines and the things that we absolutely love about Sex in the City in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're hitting a stride with finally knowing all of these characters, with all of them going through multiple different storylines, but all of them feeling realistic at this point.
Right.
From Anthony and Giuseppe, who I talked about like just last episode, where I hated the way that they were going. And
Mm-hmm.
here I absolutely love the conversations that they had here.
Yeah.
Lisa and Herbert are possibly the most interesting couple on the show. While at the same time having Carrie and Aiden
Mm-hmm.
seem like the most real couple on the show.
Right.
Like it's amazing what they've done with the second half of the season. But we would love to know what you all think. What do you think moving forward with Lisa and Herbert? How will this miscarriage and at times miscommunication of their relationship, how will it affect them moving forward? What do you think about Charlotte and her letting her family know? Damn it!
Don't call
As a
me.
woman,
Mm-hmm.
leave me alone. I am here for drinks and mimosas. Getting her new old fashioned city girl on, her
Mm-hmm.
salt and pepper push it moment on, as I should call it here. And what do you think about Aiden and Carrie? Where will this tragedy with his son lead their relationship to go to? But check us out every Thursday after the episode drops at 4 a.m. You tune in. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe to Big Go Belt Media. We have so much other content coming along with participating in our last episode. As I think my coworker just fell or something. Oh, there you go.
Yo, my camera is so disrespectful. I'm glad we
Yeah,
have to
like I
have
said,
it.
look here. Are we
Goodbye,
done?
y'all.
Are we done? Peace, people.